Hello, and thank you for joining today to talk about our test of the month for TNPA. This month's theme, by popular request, I had a request from someone who attends these webinars and said, I'd like to know what happens when I don't have an ask string and just have a blank that someone can fill in. And so we'll do that this week. Also, you'll see plugs for companies I don't work for scattered throughout. Not sure quite how that worked out, but I feel like it's one of those things that if you're plugging yourself, it's egotistical. If you're plugging other people, it's altruistic. So we'll go with that. So what happens with no ask string? Let's do a quick dive into ask string psychology. There are really two different decisions someone is making when they donate. First is, should I donate? And second is, how much should I donate? And if you get the answer to number 2 wrong, you can mess up number 1. If you have the inappropriate ask amount, if you're asking for too much or too little, someone may revisit their decision to donate, but those are often not paired in the person's mind. And the how much to donate depends on a lot of things. You have your own internal anchors. How much do I usually donate to organizations? How much do people like me donate to organizations? What options do I have in front of me? We know that ask strings can draw people up or down, make people more or less likely to donate. Behavioral science cues can enter into the equation, as you know from many of these other test of the month discussions. All of those to add up to say the ask amount and whether someone will respond. And sometimes you can do things that will increase your revenues, but oftentimes it's picking between efficient outcomes. That is, you're looking at, am I trading response rate for average gift or average gift for response rate? That's called Pareto efficiency. When you're on that frontier where you can't make any advances, you can only make trade-offs. So plug number 1 is if you want to learn about ask strings. When I was at Donor Voice, I wrote a white paper there called The Science of Ask Strings that has a lot of good information on this. And we'll send that out with the notes as well. So next after, which is plug number 2, they highlight many tests on their site. They tested an ask string in the email. And so this was for Harvest Ministries in 2016 test. So if we put our ask amount into the email, will I suppress response rate? What will happen to average gift? Those sorts of things. So we have a mini ask string of 35, 45 or more versus 50, 75 or more versus will you give a generous gift today? Everything else about the emails was the same. That's why I didn't paste them in there. But if you do want details, this link will get it to you. The results, you had a 0.1% conversion rate for 35, 45. You had half of a 0.1%, I guess that'd be 0.05% conversion rate for 50, 75 or more, and then a 0.14% conversion rate for generous gift. So this was a 43% increase. They took out some of the rounding, but a 43% increase in conversion rate for just having a generous gift. This also had a higher average gift. They didn't say how much higher, but a higher average gift than the default, which is a good sign because if you can increase both response rate and average gift, you're pushing that frontier outward. So they were finding that not to list the gift amounts in the email, but rather have someone click through and then decide how much. In essence, they're separating the should I donate, how much should I donate decision here. So that's email. What about in other media? This was a paper by, forgetting the first author, but the second one was John List, who has done a lot of work on matching gifts. So of course there's a matching test in here. So this was phone-a-thon fundraising. They had 3 options on the phone. Would you like to make a gift today? Would you like to make a $20 gift today? Would you like to make a personalized ask amount? They were calling alumni from who graduated 2001 to, I believe, 2008. And so the ask amount would be $20.04 if you graduated in 2004. There was actually a 4th option that I forgot to put on the slide, but it's randomized ask amount to test whether it was the weird ask amount or whether that personal significance took over. And so they would ask you for $20.08 if you graduated in 2004, just to see what the mechanism was. There was also a match test in here that is less interesting, but matches increased response rate, not a shock. There is a lot of this stuff in the paper, so you can go to see the paper online. I say skip over all of this matrix calculus stuff and get into the good stuff, which is graphs and charts. The idea of not having an ask lost on the phone. So response rate sub 10% for no ask. When you asked for $20 or when you asked for the person's class year, you got over 12%. And then the random number performed about like no ask. So the way to do it was ask for $20 or ask for a personally significant amount. This held true whether there was a match or no match. Slight increase in the match conditions in both cases, but having an ask amount in there with no match was better than having no ask and a match. So not including an ask amount in your telephone script, in this case at least, was better than, had a greater impact than having a match campaign. And anytime you can beat that, it's a good thing. So that's the phone. And finally, we have a test from the mail. I could not find a study that had no ask string in the mail. If you have one, would love to feature you on a future call. Honestly, I would like to feature you on an upcoming call, whether you have a test on this or not, because we would love to get some tests from those people who are on the call and practitioners. So the closest I could find was, what if you did a streamlined ask string? So this study looked at an ask string in the mail of, do you want to give $10, $50, or $100? Then they added two options, $250, $500, which I'm calling the many options. They called it T1, T2. I always forget by the end of the study which one was which, so I tried to label them. And then few options. Do you want to give $10? Do you want to give $500? Or do you want to give something else? And I will say for this few options, 90% of people wrote in something else into the ask string. So it's, when I say it's as close as I could find to having no ask string as possible, that's what I mean. The theory was that having money that people would be turned off of giving $100 if it was the highest ask amount, that people who wanted to give $100 would downgrade or not give if it was an extreme amount. So the many options was put in there, and few options cut the middle out of that to see, do you really need the middle values? And it turns out you do not. So they looked first at $100 gifts, and they found that either the many options or the few options beat the heck out of small options. When you had $100 as the most extreme ask amount, people were turned off from giving that and tended to default toward either 50, or they defaulted to not giving, believe it or not. Having fewer options had a lower response rate of 1, 10, 50, 100, had a significantly lower response rate than either many options where they added $250 or $500, or a few options where they just said $10, $500, you pick. And so their theory, at least, is that by not including those people who wanted to give a little bit more, you are really cutting off those folks, and they were simply not giving, or they were downgrading their gift amount. So some potential conclusions that kind of run across all of these studies. It appears that ask amounts are more helpful the closer you are to making the transaction. When you get out into the email, that may be less helpful than when you're on the phone with someone or when you're filling out that reply device. Now, they didn't test things like symbolic gifts or motivated ask amounts. So things like DRTV, where you're saying in particular, your $19 monthly gift does X, your $20 monthly gift pays for a surgery. Those sorts of things, they didn't test. And honestly, I believe rather firmly that cases like that, you probably wouldn't even put an ad on the air that didn't have an ask amount, because it's a very particular type of ask you're going for there to fund the cost of typically very expensive DRTV, although less expensive than it used to be. Similarly, for monthly giving asks, symbolic gifts, those you're explaining why you're giving that amount. All of these studies are done in a vacuum where it's just like, let's throw in some random ask amounts. So less helpful for those types of programs. So don't throw these babies out with the bathwater. And then the other thing is that people won't donate if they don't see themselves in your ask amount. One of the most powerful appeals that you can make is people like you do things like this. And if you consider yourself a $5 donor, you may not reply to an ask string that starts at $50. Likewise, if you consider yourself a $1,000 donor, first of all, good for you. Second of all, if you see an ask string that's $10, $50, $100, you may not see yourself in that. That may not be an organization for you. And so you may not give in addition to downgrading your giving. So those are a few thoughts on those studies. I'm going to open it up for questions. Not that you couldn't ask questions before, just that we didn't have questions before. And while you're typing, I promised some additional plugs. So let me give a plug to the TNPA workshop, Ready, Set, Go. Call it a workshop, but it's really a series of 3 days where we're going to be coming together and focusing in on getting additional data about our donors, how we get it, how we use it, how we sell it to our organizations, how it works with privacy concerns, those sorts of things. So the first meeting is kind of the why of this. Your fundraising strategies have been disrupted. Now is that time to take a leap forward in how you're talking to donors. So that's the kind of get ready, talking about opportunities that are out there. The second day is identifying those opportunities, meeting in small groups with folks to discuss what issues you have in terms of using more efficient donor data, what issues others have had, with the hopes that in those conversations we'll be able to solve each other's problems. Those will be led by some pretty impressive people and me. I'm not sure I include myself in that group, but throughout you will have this pod of people that will be talking and learning together and reinforcing that learning together. So it's a bit of a new experiment for us. Hopefully it'll help focus us in. So we have get ready, get set, and then the third one is go, solidifying your plans with your coaches, with your peer groups. What are the actionable steps? What are the 1 or 2 things that you can do to move things forward? And then how do you set timelines, dependencies, resources? So really interesting session. I hope you'll join us for that. And then the other one is for PF&A. They do something called the Great Fundraising Masterclass. Really focuses in on the cultures and behaviors and leadership necessary for creating great fundraising organizations. And so I encourage you to seek that out as well. And I feel like I've vamped enough. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I'm not seeing anything in the Q&A. As ever, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is nellinger@moredmgroup.com. That's NELLINGER@MOORDMGROUP.com. Gosh, I didn't think group would be the word that I'd have trouble spelling in there. Feel free to reach out to me saying, I have a question, I have a topic I want to see. As you saw today, we focused in on a topic that someone who comes to these wanted to learn about. And so I relish the opportunity to either use your content or to customize content to the things that you're looking to address right now. Thank you very much and have a great day.